Welcome to Models of Integrity, a new video documentary by Luke Sterra Leadership Foundation. I am Father George Ehusani, the Executive Director. We have produced this documentary, Nigeria, Models of Integrity, to showcase good, upright Nigerians who are struggling to live lives of integrity in the midst of what some people consider a rotten environment. An environment where every day we are bombarded with news of monumental corruption. Corruption at the lowest levels, corruption at the highest levels. Young people are today assaulted with scandals of their leaders or ex-leaders. Scandals relating to indiscipline, to corruption, to impunity. In that environment, we want to demonstrate that there are examples of virtue, there are examples of integrity, there are examples of people who have lived their life and have continued to live their life by principles, people of character, people who know that righteousness exalts a nation, but that sin is a reproach. We have many such people, from left to right, from north to south, from east to west, Igbos and Yorubas and Hausas and TV and Ishekiri and Ibira. We have good Nigerians, exemplary Nigerians, models of integrity, but they have not been well celebrated. They have not been given recognition. Luke Sterra Leadership Foundation has begun a series to showcase Nigerians that are struggling, that are working hard, not without sacrifice, not without persecution sometimes, to live by truth, by justice, by honesty, to work hard and only earn an honest living and touch no resource that is not their own, that they have not worked for. We have many such Nigerians. We want to be showing this to our young people in order to give our young people hope that all is not lost. Everyone is not rotten. We want to give our primary school young people, secondary school young people, our students in the universities, young graduates, let them know that all hope is not lost, that Nigeria can be redeemed, especially because we have these shining lights. We have these beacons of light in every profession, in every sector. Christians and Muslims who are using their Christian religion and their Muslim religion to live lives of integrity as nurses, as teachers, as administrators, as civil servants, as corporate executives. They are using the best moral principles of their Christian faith or Islamic faith to live lives of integrity, and we want our young people to emulate them. These are the people we call models of integrity. I am grateful to the MacArthur Foundation that supports the production and the free distribution of this documentary, and it is part of the projects that Luke Sterra has been running along with other people to promote integrity in our society. In the last few years, we have produced booklets like this, Christianity and the Challenge of Corruption in Nigeria. Christianity and the Challenge of Corruption in Nigeria, showing all the scriptural texts and commentaries where every act of corruption we practice in this country, everyone is abhorred and condemned. Also, we produced Islam and the Challenge of Corruption in Nigeria, showing texts from the Hadith, texts from the Quran, texts from Islamic scholars that condemn all acts of corruption. We even produced a curriculum and facilitators manual, a curriculum and facilitators guide to teach people how to use their religions to promote integrity and to fight corruption. Finally, we produced an integrity pledge, a pledge that everyone that comes for our courses, our training programs at Luke Sterra, takes this pledge at the end of the course in order to live lives of integrity, and we make them ambassadors of integrity. So, the Models of Integrity documentary that you're about to watch is just one amidst a whole gamut of programs to promote integrity in our society and teach people to take leadership role. May the Lord use this documentary and several other productions like this that are coming up to transform our society, to give hope to young people, to make our country a better place that all of us will love to leave behind a good legacy of justice and peace and integrity that we would like to leave for our children and children's children. God bless you.
Some individuals take humility and a simple attitude to life to an awesome level.
I used to work in Abuja, in the office of the Surveyor General of the Federation. I'm a surveyor by profession. And I lived all my working life as a surveyor and retired as a surveyor in 2011.
I used to work here in Abuja in the office of the Surveyor General of the Federation. Wait a minute, but you were yourself the Surveyor General. But that's the man in his well-known self-effacing style. Humble and straightforward former Nigerian Surveyor General Austin Njepueme grew up as a child to find people showing good respect to his parents. Here's why.
Really, if I had anybody who was a model of integrity, my dad was one. And so he brought me up, and he would always tell me, whatever you want to do, remember the son of who you are. I didn't leave money behind for you. I didn't leave riches, but I am leaving a name, which I will want you to perfect and also live for your children and grandchildren.
This Njaba local government, Imo State born boundaries specialist, has seen action in an eventful life of surveying. He believed in his father's exemplary life to the point of wanting to perpetuate his name.
It surprises people that I haven't changed the name. I still continue to maintain the name. My children answered the name. My grandchildren are still answering that name. I wouldn't even mind if my own name is lost, but that name is kept because it's a precious name to keep.
The father he's talking about was a devout Catholic. So was his wife. Austin had a path to God laid out for him. He rose to become a mass servant and only narrowly missed the seminary later. He was filled with God all through his childhood, so to speak. But however desirable the godly injunctions he received were, they would not spare Austin from life's challenges. What were those inevitable challenges?
There were really many, and there were very serious challenges, really. The challenges of adult life, too much drinking, too much smoking, too much bribery, too much corruption. You find that if you are trying to make your life perfect and you are trying to live the life of a Christian, by the time you come into the society, you come directly in conflict with the way the society is, especially in a society like ours, where you will see other people doing things you were not brought up to do. But, in as much as one was not supposed to alienate oneself from the society, one had to learn to live with other members of the society. You try as much as possible to encourage people. Don't let the society, influence you into doing what you are not supposed to do. You try as much as possible to influence the society, to change a little, and at least meet you midway or be on your side of behavior. It was a difficult task, really.
His godly attitude was derided by some individuals. It didn't matter. He actually says a good Christian who is not scoffed at does not exist. Mr. Njepueme, in effect, started his fight against moral decay right from when he became a civil servant.
I was given the civil service form to fill out. You know, in our days, the Civil Service Commission used to interview us while we were at the university, publish our names even before we finish the degree program. So immediately you finish your service, you go and report at your office. I got there, a young man bubbling with energy and with all the hopes in the world. And I was given a form to fill. I started with my name and date of birth. And surprisingly, the person who gave me the form asked me, "Is this your real date of birth?" I said, "Yes, that's my real date of birth." And they said, no. You have to change it, you know, bring the year up by about 5 to 8 years, so that you will stay longer in the civil service. Then I asked him, if I bring the year up by 5 years or 8 years, what does that do to my person? My date of birth is supposed to be my date of birth. It is not, I'm not supposed to hide my date of birth and then I have another official date of birth. The man just looked at me and said, this man, maybe you ought to have been a reverend father. Do you think this place is a church? You know, this is what everybody does. I looked at the man and I told him, well, the fact that everybody does it does not make it right. I want to put my date of birth. I don't want to have another date of birth. My date of birth is my date of birth. He said, okay, go ahead, but you will regret it by the time you are retiring, because you'll be retiring from service young. I looked at him and I never bothered. I put down my correct date of birth. And I walked through the service with my real date of birth. I didn't have an official date of birth. And I told my God, when I get to the age of 60 or to 35 years, as stated in the service, I will retire and go home and look after myself. There is no need of me telling a lie. So, you will not believe it, as at the time I was to retire, when they called us to come and fill out the forms and do some orientation, you know, for retirement. I got there, they were telling me, no, Oga, this place is for retirees. It is not for people like you. Because I turned out to look like the youngest person there. Some were coming with, problem with one hand or one leg, or were being carried there or anything. I walked in like a young man that I was, and they were saying, no, you are not supposed to be here. This place is for retirees. I said, I'm going to be a retiree also with you in the next 3 weeks. They said, you are not supposed to be a retiree. Even the president told me too. He called me and said, I understand you are retiring. I said, yes. He said, you are not looking 60. I said, but I'm 60. My body knows I'm 60. You know, so I'm going to retire. He said, no, I will give you an extension of 1 year. You can take an extension. I told him, I'm not extending. I want to go. He said, why do you want to go when you are hell and hating? People come here begging for another year, or even 2 years, 3 years. And you say you want to go. I said, I want to go. I want to go when I be useful to myself and be able to look after myself. I don't want to go when I have had maybe diabetes or high blood pressure or whatever. I'm going to be 60 and I want to go. I don't want any extension of service. Said, well, I like the way you did this work, but if you wouldn't mind and you give us another year. I said, I will want to retire when the ovation is highest.
We asked Mrs. Njepueme how much of a problem the husband became to her for refusing bribes and acts of self-aggrandizement that many women would have thanked their husbands for facilitating into the family. The woman was ready for us.
Where do you start? Because, there's that proverb that is from little things that you can know, whether the bigger things will actually fall in place, So, looking back from the early days, when we used to write letters, there were no phones to send. As somebody writes to you and tells you something he will do or he will say or, and does it, you don't have to remind. Then it shows you, oh, that person must be a very, committed, person that has integrity actually, Because then in school, there are many people that will tell you things and they will never do any of those things, just sweet mouth and that is it. So you begin to see somebody who is committed, who is disciplined, ab initio, so it's not something that that started along the line, after our marriage, but has always been there. 43 years of marriage, and you've had that consistency all through the thin and thick times,
Other endorsers of the character of Mr. Njepueme practically raise his integrity beyond human reproach.
There was a time the surveying world had a meeting in Abuja here, and he was supposed to make a speech for the president. And he called somebody to do it, a much senior person to me. He couldn't get that person, so he called me that I should gather some people to write the speech. At the end of the day, he was given 5,000 naira, and he called me. I went to his office. He brought out the 5,000 crisp notes and shared it into two to give part of that one to me, saying that he was given the money as honorarium, but that he knew that I was the author. I appreciated it so much because he didn't have any reason to share it with me. And when I got down, I shared with the people who made the speech with me. There are so many other reasons for me to say that he is a man of integrity. One day he called me, said, Val, do you know that all these struggles, sometimes you match people's leg and take something that belongs to them? At the end of the day, you will leave everything here and go away.
Sovereign Njepueme, I will start by referring to Proverbs chapter 20 verse 7 that says, a just man live his life on integrity, and his children are blessed after him. But that of Njepueme, his children are even blessed when he's still alive. He has lived a life of integrity. He's a man of his words. He's a man that promises and fulfilled. And he's a man that does not, when they talk of corruption, he is never. And the man has always been a man of his word, standing on whatever he says he will do.
Mr. Njepueme has something that should serve as a piece of advice to young persons who are hoping for an easy life.
I stayed with my grandfather in those days, and I will always tell him, look, Grandpa, there are too many problems. You go out there, there are too many problems. Is this the way the world is? And my grandpa will always tell me, yes, that is the way the world is. The day you don't find challenges, if you wake up any day, you don't find the challenges and everything is smooth, then check it very well. You have left this earth. You are in another realm. And it makes a lot of sense to me, really now, because really there are too many challenges, and really the day you wake up and you don't find the challenges, then you check it very well. Maybe you have left, the earth and you are in another realm.
Mr. Njepoeme was a director, boundaries, at a point in his career. Where he said the boundary was, practically became law. He resisted all attempts, locally and internationally, to be bribed into compromise. At 72, the man is still young and happy. Former diplomat and public service icon, Ambassador Antonia Ekpa, stood her moral ground in her days in office, not because she loved attracting attention to herself, but rather out of a desire to stand firmly on her early convictions about a virtuous and godly life. In the course of her career, she blazed the trail of transparency, fairness, and probity to the point of inviting criticism from individuals who considered her a stumbling block to their tendency to help themselves to public resources. But this Calabar-born believer in God, who was nurtured in early Christianity mainly by her mother, would have none of the demeaning traits she was accused of not allowing. Anyway, besides her mother, Calabar remains a reference point in the introduction of Christianity in Nigeria. So, Ambassador Ekpa would seem to have had good grounding for her eventual battle against graft.
She had 10 of us. So if you look at the twins, I'm number 8 because I came out first. My twin sister is a high court judge. She's number 9. And then we have the last born. So the two of us, my twin sister and I, and then the last one, did have quite some time with my mother. And she bent us over Christ. That's, I like to be metaphorical, poetic about it. She bent us over Christ. She taught us Christ. And we grew in Sunday school. She was Methodist, but I went to a Catholic primary school, convent school, Calabar Road in Calabar. And my grandmother was Catholic. My father was Catholic. But I lost my father early. So my mother was Presbyterian and Methodist. And so she took us to Methodist church. And it was there I met Sunday school as a child from about 8, 7 or much earlier. But I remember that 8, 7 I started taking roles in the Sunday school harvest events. And I want to remember and very much so bless God for one elderly lady, now late, Mrs. Enebri Frame of the Methodist Church, who was our Sunday school teacher. And and one Mr. Nathaniel, I can't remember the surname now. So they with our parents pulled us into Christianity.
Looking back, it has all signed up to a respectable life for Ambassador Ekpa. making her a good choice for giving a definition to the concept of integrity. Interestingly, she finds a place for God in the manifestation of an ideal which even the unbeliever might lay claim to.
Integrity is a value, and integrity is a soft skill. When I say it's a soft skill, it is something that you just have to live a good life. Integrity comes along with honesty. But you see, for you to have integrity, honesty, you have to understand the concept of probity, accountability. And all of these I put together in one packet, the fear of God. You see, the fear of God. There are people who have content of integrity without necessarily aligning it with God. But for us as Christians, because it is when you encounter challenge, when you are confronted by someone or people or a society that does not understand integrity and honesty and loyalty and sincerity, all of these things come together. And someone who has integrity would rather die than fail themselves first and then society. But before you fail yourself and society, you would have failed God.
As cameras trailed Dr. Ekpa, who throughout our inquiry was kept company by a husband who doted on her, the cheerful by nature former Nigerian envoy demonstrated a strong will underlying an understanding disposition towards humanity. The woman had had her scuffles with situations that challenged her stance on probity.
I started working as a university lecturer in the University of Calabar. From the day I began teaching in the university until I left the university and came to the public service, I have always confronted the challenge of standing for the truth. Because when I say integrity, it's standing for the truth, knowing what is right, and maintaining your moral principles. Okay, so I have always had challenges, and the worst of them, I think, came in the public service, and probably more directly because before I became a permanent secretary in the federal ministries or in the federal public service, I was reporting to others. So you see, as a public servant, you report to your permanent secretary, your director, whatever, depending on your level of person. But when you are the accounting officer, the permanent secretary, and I love the word accounting officer because, as a matter of fact, you are the guardian of the public purse. And what actually happens then is that you have access to funds that aren't yours. They are for government, in quote, but they are the people's funds, okay? And you have pressure from politicians with whom you're working. You have pressure from your staff, directors, from everywhere, from your village, from community, from everywhere, to be tempted to have access to that funds and to make it a general spray.
At this point, you're tempted to drop, "Oh dear," as you empathize with Dr. Ekpa. Well, she's not quite done. She reels out instances which tested the elasticity of her will to stick to that which was right.
In the course of my career, I have had to work as God would design it. I have had to work in places where I have to take decisions on behalf of others. For instance, in water resources, I was director for monitoring and evaluation of projects, water projects. And I went to Federal Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs as a director first, then later, much later, as a permanent secretary. And I had to superintend over constituency projects and their execution. All right. In Ministry of Women Affairs, I had to superintend over funds meant for women and children. So, and I was in power as a director working closely with my permanent secretary. And I had worked in the Federal Character Commission where my integrity to take a decision on complying with the regulations, with the act that sets up the commission, whether or not to forget about the code that sets up the commission, the act of the commission, and the guiding principles. You see, you have a lot of pressure, more so from your principals. When I say principals, people ahead of you, your directors, your chairman, your this, your that, and that. So I have always had that challenge. But somehow, because of my understanding that first and foremost, this job I'm doing it for God. I am my ultimate principle, my superior beyond the government is God. And the Bible says, when you're working, work as if you were working unto the Lord. So that guided me. And then I flashed back to my upbringing, where my parents, my mother particularly, because my dad was a sailor, so he was almost always traveling. And once he came, but it was really my mother who taught us contentment. You can't have integrity if you don't have contentment. That's my understanding. And godliness with contentment is great gain. So that's what the Bible says. So I have had to be pushed, and I have had to push back. Virtually push back.
She can afford to smile now, but in the days she's talking about, the weight of responsibility underpinned by abiding integrity couldn't have made her experience a picnic. But Mrs. Ekpa had garnered what she needed to confront a challenging adult life by her exposure as a child to Christian tenets. She couldn't have known it then, but she was actually being prepared by those Sunday school lessons for the battle to come. Inevitably, a few lines of love of country dropped from her lips.
Nigeria would be a better place if we had people who were God-fearing at the top of governance. Why Nigeria is suffering, why we have so much corruption, is because we don't value integrity. People want to have what is not theirs. People want to acquire what they cannot afford. People are not just satisfied and knowing, and I have that in my mind, and consciously so, that I don't have the time to spend all of these things. So what are you taking them for? Because you are stealing from the poor.
The Ekpa family has seen some turbulence, what with the death of an only son who had simply taken after his parents in godliness, and a life which is spiritually circumspect.
And to the glory of God, I've handed it over to my children. So you can't bring something into this house and they don't ask you, where did you get it from? My late son particularly was very so godly. In fact, he saw anything, he would say, Mom. Or if you were here, he would ask, who are they? What are they looking for? I hope. Then you say, no. They trusted. And so they were like your monitors. Or they are like your monitors, because I still have some of them.
Talking about her children, Ambassador Ekpa has a few words of advice for young people.
My young people, youths, children, and Nigeria's future. Integrity pays. Honesty pays. Principles and morals are the foundation upon which you build your future.
I love to tell people that tomorrow belongs to the youth. Tomorrow is yours, but you can't make tomorrow without integrity. You see, just one little miss, one little abuse of an opportunity, whether it is at the place of work or that you are not honest, can make you lose the entire of your life.
You can't lead a life so far displayed by Dr. Ekpa and fail to attract comments from those who appreciate exemplary conduct.
Is in percentage, he's more than 110% in integrity. I want to measure it. She has all the qualities that can be relied upon by a husband, by her boss, by society. Her integrity is unquestionable, and I don't question it.
I call her a woman of integrity because she started as a girl of integrity. I know that this has a lot to do with her belief system. It has a lot to do with her background. If you relate with Dr. Ekpa and you do not like truth and you do not like things going straight, that relationship is not going to last. This is somebody who is as straight as an arrow. It is difficult to bend her. She is almost immovable when it comes to certain standards that she has set for herself. And I dare say that she may not have set them for herself, but she believed those standards that have been set somewhere, and that is the Bible. I think Ambassador Dr. Mrs. Ekpa is a book to be written, a dissertation to be written, a research to be made.
Ambassador Ekpa has gone into consultancy after active service, but this Amazon of a godly conduct never interacts in any environment without dropping a hint of integrity. She was certificated in godliness right from youth. Her adult life is only retaining the baton it took from a daughter of God. Former Auditor General of the Federation, Anthony Mkwe Ayine, is grateful to God that his long years in the Nigerian public service have ended on a note of a well-merited, happy retirement. Faith took him to this achievement, since he does not hold back for one moment his reliance on the Almighty for daily guidance. But that faith is not premised on mere belief in God. Mr. Ayine has been a paragon of virtues that have become rather rare in a society seemingly in a hurry to grab as much as they can of the here and now. Integrity is one of those virtues.
To me, integrity is the quality either of character of life, being honest, being sincere, being upright, and having very strong moral principles or conviction that will be a kind of guidepost to you in your life. So that is what I see as integrity. You are, being honest in whatever thing you are doing. You are being sincere, you are upright, you are truthful in what you are doing, and you are having strong moral convictions or principles to guide you.
One element keeps returning to a time cherished by many of our models, an era during which truth was an established signpost for the child, and parents had zero tolerance for lying by their children. Mr. Aine is a product of that time.
You will be punished if you have done something wrong and you are asked and you denied when you did it. But if you tell the truth, you may not be punished. But if you lied, you denied, and then after their investigation, they discover it, that is when you'll be punished. They will counsel us. Don't speak the truth, tell us. And so, even as children, we had age group, and there were very basic moral values that were introduced to us earlier. We grew up with these values, and these early moral values which our parents gave us the training, I must say that helped me very much even in my later years.
Mr. Aine has retired after years of meritorious service as Auditor General of Nigeria, but the probity that saw him through his high-profile assignment took roots from way back in time. His early childhood was immersed in sound faith teachings.
Both parents of blessed memory were Catholics, and they were always sending us to the church. Yes, even though at that early age, I must say when I compare with my knowledge of Christianity today, I know that there were religious principles as at that early age that helped. Yes, the khakis were also taking us through evening lessons and all that.
Mr. Aine had a choice to jettison what he learned at catechism as soon as he matured into adulthood. So, why did he retain the values?
When the elders see a child or even an adult that has good moral character, such a person is appreciated, is valued, and is recognized even within the village setting. And that, most importantly, that inner satisfaction, because it develops to a kind of conviction in you that you see that to maintain such value wherever you go, it will help you and it gives you self-satisfaction. And so you should not do away with such important moral values.
Mr. Aine's story is now being told on a happy note, but it has not been an easy ride through work and into retirement.
When you are a man of integrity, you should expect challenges that will come. Those who will disagree with you, those who will slide, those who, will deride you, agree with you. And I've had quite a number of such situations. But like I said, my understanding of integrity, when you have strong conviction that this is the right way to go, this is the right character, this is the right life, you will be able to steer through whatever storm, whether somebody is trying to deride you. And in life, I have even those who at a particular time derided you, look down on you. Later in life, I will come back to you and said, you were right when you did this. But in public office, I've had situations where my former staff will call me and say, oh, Oga, we missed you. That is when later they discover the principle, the conviction you had, and you stood your ground. And that in itself gives you satisfaction. I'm one that I believe what the Bible says. A man's life consisted not of the abundance of what you possess. So unfortunately, like what we have in our environment, like Nigeria, people are looking at possessions in life. People are looking at, no, that is not what makes a man's life. But when you have values, selfless values, values that can impact, can assist others, in itself, like I've said over and over, you have that inner satisfaction.
Some people in the world are pleased with the life Mr. Ayine has led so far. They speak up about it.
What you see you live in private life, you also see that also live in public life. And that is because of his upbringing. Coming from a Christian background, he has always lived with that mentality. He said, look, as a child of God, as a believer, you need to live a life that will promote or dignify the name of God wherever you are. And he has always been living that with that perception, living his life with that perception. That I'm a child of God, I'm a believer, wherever I go. Let the whole world know that you are a child of God. Let my conduct not bring shame to the body of Christ. And it's always been that. I'm happy that even right now, he has been able to prove that to everybody that, look, there is contentment. And there's probably say that godliness with contentment is a great gain. And you see him living that kind of life. And I'm happy that I've shaped myself with that kind of character.
One notable thing for Anthony Ayine is that he is not inclined in getting riches anyhow or being material things to overtake his conscience. No matter the pressure from every place, he is still trusting and believing in himself that God can bless him at any time he will bless him. Anthony Ayine is so committed to his relationship with humanity that whoever he believes on, he will serve. And he humbles himself to the level that even ourselves as the younger ones, he still live with us. You can hardly know who is the senior, and you can hardly know who is the one helping each other, because he is not doing anything to showcase himself, but he's only doing to see that he renders his service as God asks him to do.
Mr. Ayine drops a few words of advice for young persons who are currently battling evils, many of which lure them to the path of dishonor.
My advice to the young ones is to flee, if I may use the way the Bible, to flee away from such, character, behaviors, attitude that are not glorifying God, but to accept and imbibe, the quality of life of integrity, because it will help them, to get to the highest points. If I could use myself as an example, I have lived a life of integrity by God's grace, and God has not disappointed me. God has helped me from the state level. I got to the highest point at the state level, and God brought me to the federal level and took me to the highest level. I must say that it was a kind of acknowledgement by God, and has helped me. I have lived my life true, upholding a life of integrity, and God has helped me, and I have no regret. If I were to live my life all over, I will live a life of integrity, because it pays, it gives you peace, it gives you self-satisfaction, and advise our youth, the young ones, to imbibe that quality of life of integrity, sincerity, honesty, uprightness, because it pays to live such a life.
Gentle, soft-spoken, and God-driven, Mr. Ayine has come, seen, and conquered. One can only wish him a happy life in retirement. The Leadership newspaper reported that after a 5-year stint as resident electoral commissioner in Nigeria's Akwa Ibom state, Delta State-born Mike Igini retired from the service of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. In all, he served the commission for 10 years. You wouldn't be wrong if you preposed the adjective controversial to Mr. Igini's name. But one of the officers that have given the electoral umpire transparency and believability in delivering its mandate would tell you that he didn't go to Akwa Ibom to rake up controversy. He was on a mission to do a job the way his parents brought him up, to be God-fearing and to work with truth and honesty as screaming banners on a life of determination. Mr. Igini starts off by talking about the influence of his parents on a grateful childhood.
From the family, we are taught basic value about honesty, doing the right thing, the difference between what is right and what is wrong. We are taught, my parents taught us, that there's reward for doing the right thing and there's punishment for doing the wrong thing. So the emphasis was for us to do the right thing. And every time we did the right thing, we were rewarded by acknowledgement or other forms. And whenever we went wrong, my father, because he will say, you must say the truth. You must say the truth. If he had wanted to give you 6 strokes of the cane, because you told him the truth, he could reduce it to just 2 or 3. So we even saw reward that even when were wrong, but for saying the truth, we also rewarded. Our punishments were reduced.
But his parents were that instructive about an honest life because they were themselves informed by faith of a higher order. That faith leaning took young Mike into early interaction with what the teachers said and what the Bible prescribed.
Teachers were up there in our time. We respected our teachers in school. They also taught us moral lessons. What is right? What is wrong? They have disciplinary authority over us on questions of ethics, how to behave, including the larger members of the community. And so, that was how we all grew up. And again, from the school, in the community where I was born, there was a church. But my parents were not really going to church. But clearly, the things that they were teaching us, which were they teaching in the church, those core values were the things we're living with at home. And so when I was now proceeded to my secondary education, I was sent to my uncle, the late Chief Odukuye, who was passed on at the age of 96 in Sapele. I went into the Catholic family. So every Sunday, we go to church. And beyond that, we have to go to catechism. I went through the process of catechism, baptized, and also confirmed in the Catholic.
At that early stage of life, there was no way Mr. Igini would know that the early exposure to faith and morals would eventually play a part in his battle for election probity over a 10-year tenure at INEC that clearly would have flattened the faint-hearted. Mr. Igini does not believe in cosmetic words for greed and graft. He believes more in basic terminology for dishonesty.
The church, when we are taught basic values, the 10 Commandments, loving your neighbors yourself, thou shalt not steal, because the whole problem we have in our society today, which we call corruption, is stealing. So, but from a very young age, we are taught not to steal. We have decided to use the word corruption, embezzlement. But the real thing that happened is stealing. These guys are thieves. And you know what it means in the community where we grow up? To be called a thief. It's a very terrible stigma. Not the one that they have deodorized, where we say he has embezzled and all of that. No, a thief is a thief. So the value of thou shalt not steal in the Bible, all these ethical values distilled from the Bible that were taught, and these doctrines were the entire pillar that shaped my life as a person.
We sought his definition of integrity.
Basically, there are about 5 attributes of integrity, which are honesty, reliability or dependability, loyalty, respect, and sound judgment.
At the INEC duty post, Mr. Igini held tenaciously to honesty as if his life depended on it. Ironically, his attitude attracted many threats to his life from politicians who would prefer he looked the other way. Mr. Igini presents a profile of how honesty works.
To be honest is a moral choice. And that when people look up to you You must not disappoint them. Particularly in public office where you have to swear to an oath under part 7 of the Constitution. Like the Romans, I felt that I must keep to the oath of office, to do right to all persons, no matter what happens. And that is why, for the 10 years that I served, I never betray the core value of integrity, honesty, credibility, but rather, at the risk of my life, I remain true to them for a period of 10 years.
He didn't say 10 explosive years, but that's what many people who admired him from the sidelines think about Mr. Igini's trailblazing service at INEC. Here's a peep into the kind of temptation Mr. Igini had to fight off as an INEC resident commissioner.
Another temptation. Somebody who is in the government today was reached, and that he got me in Abuja, met me in Abuja, tried to talk to me after our MBA conference in 2010. And eventually, it's okay, let me see you. Ironically, the person is still in government today. And said, why a person, for their own political interests, there is a house in Asokoro, which they will get from me. All they wanted from me is to get the name of somebody else so that they will buy the property in the name of that person who will now transfer to me. So I should suggest somebody. So you could see that the process of even the corruption, they teach you everything. So, and I said, a house in Asokoro that worth about 300 and something million? How? Who told you I need a house in Asokoro? I'm in Lagos. I live in Lagos. And I warned him that I don't expect this. You, who has held yourself out as a civil society person, you are the one asked to do this? And I told him, if you accept anything on my behalf, you are on your own. That was in 2010. And we have several like that. The toughest of all was Akwa Ibom State. The toughest of all, where my life was really at risk. We have some diabolical politicians in Akwa Ibom. Beyond being diabolical, they have a killer squad. I have an audio tape. How they plan to bomb my official car. The people were to do it, I had collected 15 million as part payment. And I have the recording. They were to blow up my official car. That was after they've gone through different people. You know what they do? It will sound you out. They can't come to you directly. So, for the whole $10 million, you know, I recall there was a statement I made that, look, I came to Akwa Ibom State to count votes and not to count money. And that the integrity of the public office, public faith in that integrity, that we will do the right thing, must take priority over any consideration. That ₦1 trillion cannot get you a vote from me. That those who are called upon to count the vote of people do not matter, but those who will cast the votes. The integrity of that process, public faith in that integrity must take priority over any consideration.
We sought the views of other persons on the Igini persona.
When he became an official at Inuyo, he walked the talk. He was able to practice what he preached. And he made enemies, he also made friends. Indeed, we need a person like that who has credibility, who believes in the integrity of a system.
I have known him to be a person of integrity, and I have known him also to be somebody who is forthright, with his opinions when asked, and sometimes even offers unsolicited advice. And if one reflects over the things that he speaks about, there is always sense, there is always wisdom, and there is always something to take that can add value. And definitely in INEC, the Mike Igini I knew because of his knowledge, his competence, his integrity. He has added tremendous value to our work in the Independent National Electoral Commission. I found him to be one of the few resident electoral commissioners that I was very comfortable with, that I was not afraid when they are given an assignment that they would deliver, and who also you cannot question his character in terms of what he would do, in terms of his integrity.
Mike Igini is a man of integrity. I remember when he was posted to Akwa Ibom, he performed so well that for the first time, corruption in INEC was brought to the notice of everybody in Nigeria. When he was in Akwa Ibom, that was the first time a professor in the university was jailed for election malpractices. And everybody in Nigeria saw that. What the national body had not been able to do. Mike Igini speaks the truth at all times and does not call white black or black white. So he's a man of integrity.
Mike Igini, bold and courageous messenger of truth and honesty. Okpara in Delta State is proud to have a son like him. He has his parents and early Christian doctrine to thank for the life of honor which his adult existence holds tenaciously to. She is cheerful, forward-looking, and with an eternal smile that virtually compels you to participate in it. This systems administrator and employee of the Federal Capital Territory Administration (FCTA) is simply a happy woman. The string of adjectives employed for her description probably stems from a childlike life.
I'm Fatima Zara Babari. I come from a very not so big family, medium family, but they call it big since in the north we have if you have over 10 children, it's a big family.
Big or not, Hajia Hawa's family background has played an important role in bringing up a personality of good morals who listens not just to the heart in her dealings with people, but also to the Almighty, whose ways Hajia Hawa was introduced to quite early in life.
You have to go to Islamia after you come back from the normal primary school hours. On Fridays we close 12, from Mondays to Thursdays we close at 1 p.m. So after that you have a little siesta maybe and lunch, and then you proceed to Islamia at 3:30 till 6.
So that you understand everything. It's Hajia Hawa's modest way of putting it. Otherwise, her later years and sojourn into adulthood have so far shown that those lines from the Islamic teacher provided the building blocks for her subsisting faith in God.
Islam is actually very straightforward. It aligns with your daily lives. So, first and foremost, it teaches you to be very, very humble, honest, welcoming. Whoever steps into your house or home or whoever you meet on the road, you should welcome them with open arms. Your neighbors, whoever, high or low, or whoever you meet. So the teachings about Islam is basically just aligning it with your everyday activities.
Her last line is probably one of the reasons she is unrelenting in her efforts to forge better understanding between her and the environment. Hajia Hawa is outgoing and accommodating. Besides Islamia, injunctions from her mother played a huge role in her religious upbringing, just as her dad scribbled supplications for a cherished daughter. She mentions her path to a healthy life with other persons.
First and foremost, I pray. If it's an environment where I can actually bring up the topic and talk about it, I do. I just bring up the topic and say, oh, this, what you did or how this situation is turning out is not what I envisaged it to be. So can we talk about this? I wasn't happy about this, or this particular a method we're using to solve this problem is not okay by me. Can we explain? Can we sit down and have a discussion? That's what I do. But firstly, I pray to be calm, because if you're angry and you talk, you might say things that you might want to take back and you cannot. So I actually try not to talk when I'm angry. I might start with a few words and then I just calm down. If I can walk out of the place, I walk out of the place. And then I come back later and then I actually talk about it, because I can't bottle up anger. I'm not the kind of person that can bottle up anger.
We pried into her handling of workplace temptation. It shouldn't be surprising that we did. Hajia Hawa works for the Abuja Geographic Information Systems, AGIS, an office which gives her avenue to line her pockets with money from clients seeking a shortcut to services they want.
I work with AGIS. They deal with lands and everything, land documents. So you might have maybe one or two people asking you, oh, can't you just help us get this parcel of land or do this without anybody knowing, or things like that. You could get rich with the blink of an eye. But I just remember, if I fall down and die now, as in everything will be exposed. Is that what I want to leave behind, the legacy I want to leave behind? Apart from falling and dying, I can't sleep with both eyes closed, knowing that I've done such things. So even if I'm in a situation where, okay, I really need this or that, I'll just pray. My first thing is prayer. I just pray. For even if it is tempting, I'll just pray, oh Allah, listen, if it is Satan, please let him just go away from me. And then whatever it is, let me be content with my life. If you want to give me more, I'll be very appreciative. I pray for more so that I can do for myself and also do for others. So please, and then before you know it, I'm past that place. I'll just say, oh, if I'll just tactically just move away from that position.
When she insists on a life of integrity and colleagues scoff at her attitude, does she sometimes waver about her stance of honesty?
I don't think that I should change my life or my behavior or throw away the life of honesty because of such comments. Because people, the way everything comes and goes, people come and go too. But what you leave behind still stays even years after, even through to your grandchildren. So no, it's better to just endure.
Her definition of integrity is not at variance with her chosen lifestyle.
I feel integrity means you should be honest to the best of your ability. I mean, we're human beings. We have a little bit of, we're not 100% good, no matter how good a person is. There's always a little bad. So no, you can't say you're 100% good. So as a person, you should be honest as can be all the time. And then you should be humble. Whoever you meet on the way, on the road, in your home, or whoever knocks in your house, you should welcome them and treat them the way you want to be treated. And then within an organization, maybe like the office or something, maybe at work, you should work with honesty and to the best of your ability. For us working in the government, we feel, oh, it's just government work, it belongs to the government. No, treat it as if you're going to, treat it as if it's your own, and treat it like if they give it to you as a gift, you'd be very happy and you'd make it very rosy and nice. So you treat your work in the government the way you would treat your own work or your own home. So that's what I feel integrity is.
Hajia Hawa is a lucky woman. She makes a healthy confession about herself.
So what you see on the surface is what I am. I can't even hide, I can't pretend. My sister always tells me, oh, you this Fatima, you can't pretend when we're somewhere and I show you something. Can you just pretend you've not seen it? But I can't do that. So I guess people are drawn to that, and I like to see people happy. So even in a serious situation, we try to just a bit of joke here and there, not all the time, just to make the mood a bit less tense if it's in a meeting or a first time meeting or something.
The way she is made, this lady of sheer modesty could virtually get on the street to distribute happiness to those who are keen on getting some. All she requires is an ever-present smile and a childlike deportment that thrives on just being simple. Her road through life was paved in humility from childhood. She looks set to use that route till the end.
She's a very honest person, straight shooter, if I might say. She doesn't care. That's how she is. If she says this is black, it's black. If she says this is white, it's white. She doesn't go with the gray area or anything like that. Like, I have a little problem and I need her advice. It doesn't matter if I'm at fault or the other person's at fault. She will tell me black and white how it is. You're supposed to do this. Why will you do that? And that's how she is. She will not pamper me because I'm more of her friend than the other person. No, she will not. She'll just say it. Why did you do this? This is how it's supposed to be done. Class, and she moves on.
Yeah, she really is the personification of integrity. I would like to say she has always been honest in all my time knowing her, all my almost 3 decades of being siblings. You could say she's even brutally honest because really you always know where you stand with her. And I've used that. I will say she has been an influence in my life because even in my place of employment and my dealings with people, I have channeled this influence she has had on me, and I've used it to some success. Whenever you did something wrong, your worst fear was that Fatima would get to know about it.
You barely hear the label, journalist somebody or teacher someone. All the same, Farmer Ogbole has stuck like glue on farmer and biochemist Samson Ogbole, who grew up in what he calls the traditional setting. His parents, both Christians, had a mind to raise their children with the best of morals. One of the things they taught him was to say the truth, no matter the cost. Telling the truth made the punishment for an offense lighter. Conversely, you attracted heavy penalty even for the smallest lie.
I remember my mom always said that was like her go-to statement. Do not lie. If you lie, you can steal. And because you can steal, you can kill. That means you are a witch. So it was more or less, if you lie, she would treat you like you have killed. For her, it was more like you have started the process. It's only a matter of time before the person gets to the end.
So, truth-telling was built into young Samson's behavioral toolkit. The Irwa, Edo State-born biochemist, has a Harvard Business School credential to flaunt if he so wished, but his modesty would rather promote virtues than academic laurels. Still on the trail of telling the truth, Farmer Ogbole recalls an experience.
I remember vividly growing up, I broke one of my uncle's car windscreen. And they go, who did this? I'm like, oh, I'm the one. And they go, he's forgiven because you said the truth. So there was that comfort of knowing the truth could get you off a lot of things faster than the lie. So the lie you probably told is this small. The punishment, you'll be like, which kind of lie I tell? But you commit a very big crime and you just tell the truth. And the punishment is super small just because it was premised on the truth.
His grandparents told him that he didn't have to remember what he said earlier when the truth was told. Truth returns to the lips naturally. Farmer Ogbole attributes his molding to his parents as well as grandparents. So, who really stood out among them in his upbringing?
3 people had to go. My mom, my maternal grandparents, that was like their yardstick. It's even a proverb in my village. If you lie, you steal. If you steal, you kill. There you are a witch. So it was like a continuous, what's the word now? Story. It was a continuous thing they always said. And for everything that you did, whether right or wrong, I remember my grandpa always had this thing of, oh, whatever good you're doing, you're not doing for me, you are doing for yourself. That was like his status quo. So when you think you are doing a chore in the house, you are expecting him to. So my grandma is more of the person that says, well done, or you are sweeping, or you are mopping, or you are doing this right. Or my grandpa is like, no, I'm not telling you well done. I can see it, but it means you are becoming more responsible.
His grandfather, who perhaps would have been the ideal mentor for present-day youth, was only making sure that a child who wouldn't feel entitled to a good life, but rather work for it, was being nurtured. But in all of this, what is Farmer Ogbole's view about integrity?
Integrity is just keeping to your words. Say it, do it. If you can't do it, explain it before the person finds out you didn't do it. So you don't have to, it's just say it. If you have said it, do it. You can't do it, say it before the time you were supposed to do it. It's not giving an excuse, is, oh, bro, sorry, I said I was going to return your 10 naira tomorrow, but tomorrow won't work. Can I? So the person knows that, yes. So it's not like I always tell my people, it's not really about the big stuff at times. You learn it from the small stuff. It's not about, oh, I've made a promise to give somebody $1 million, $1 billion naira. No, it's about the small stuff first. Oh, I will call you tomorrow by 7. By 7 a.m. you could not call. Reach out to the person, oh, I'm hooked up, or I didn't forget about the call. Can we reschedule? It's that simple.
A lot of people advise young persons to acquire integrity as a necessity for a life of honor and virtue. Farmer Ogbole has nothing against such precept. He, however, has a very interesting way of advising integrity without leading his treatise with the word.
There is a need for them to first understand work is not a repercussion for sin. Work is not because man fell. Work is because God wanted it that way. I make them to see the fact that, oh, the whole thing about work is not because Adam needed to eat. That was why he was working. Adam was not working because he needed to see God, because he saw God every evening. Adam was not working because he needed a better life. He was having his best life in the garden. Adam was not working to build a future. He had his future secured in the garden. So Adam was working because there was a commandment to work. And of course, there is this scripture that talks about the fact that he who does not work should not eat. And I say interpretation, if we want to use simple language, we know that feeding is needed to survive. So what the scripture was saying in simple terms is the man that does not work should die. So we don't work to blow, we work to live. So when people start understanding that the reason I put my hand to work is not to make it, the reason I put my hand to work is not to build a mansion, the reason I put my hand to work is not to satisfy my boss or get my parents off my back or have enough money to get married. I work because God designed me for work. So when I am not working, I am automatically anti-God. That's simple. Once young people start understanding that, they begin to place better value on work. And as you place better value on work, one of the fruits of proper work ethics is integrity by default. Because now you know, I am working for God even if man is my boss, so I will do the work the way it pleases God, even if the man does not say well done. So with that understanding of what work should be, we teach integrity as a subtle thing, not integrity at the top. Because now you see, they are happy to work. They are happy to put in their all. They're happy to bring in their best. Why? They believe that this thing we are doing is what we are created to do. So if I am not working, it's not just about man, it's about the God I claim to believe in. So it changes the conversation. So I am not super concerned around sitting down to say, keep your word, keep your word. No, do the work right. In doing the work right, in doing work as it is supposed to be, every other thing will come right. Because I'm sure you'd have heard people say things like, you cannot work honestly and live a life without integrity. So it's usually because people lose integrity because they have forgotten what work is supposed to be.
In his trailblazing imprint on modern agriculture, Farmer Ogbole agrees that being a man of integrity does deny one access to certain things in life.
There are contracts you don't get because they know you have integrity. They would say, oh, let's cut corners, let's add this, remove this, and you're like, no. If we say we are using this quality, we are using this quality. And they would rather go with somebody else that will compromise quality to increase profits. That is sort of a regular reoccurrence in the industry. Or you have a thing where the person says, oh, come and give us a quote for this, it's a government job. Or at times it's a rich man's job. And you're like, oh, this is the price of material. And you start hearing things like, oh, why not increase the cost of this? The person can pay. And you're like, no, this is the material cost. So they would rather go with somebody who can help them inflate the price to make up for whatever thing they want to add.
Well, Farmer Ogbole would have none of that. This virtuous farmer is a pleasant wink in broad daylight. He is noticed, and here are the views of some of the individuals who appreciate his person.
When we initially started, so as an agricultural firm, we do the whole production, and when we initially started, we didn't have the whole logistics activity properly covered. We were outsourcing. So we had clients that were in Lagos and they place an order and then you have to send things to them. And because we're using third parties, sometimes this thing leaves the farm fresh, gets to the vendors destroyed. And they get to call back and they're like, I got the vegetables, they're all bad. I got the tomato, it busted. And if you ask somebody, what do you think you do at that point? Oh, sorry, But guess what? Not with Mr. Sam. We refunded them. Every single one of them.
His time management is superb. I, as a young person, have been teaching time management and teamwork dynamics in my younger age in corporate management. But I could see a young man with all what he has on his shoulders, his intelligence as a technologist person. You could see his time management, his teamwork management. Wow, I was really thrilled. In terms of relationship, he's already keeping his head low, humble to everybody, and willing to learn from a lot of people, even though he knows much. So I think that's what I call integrity. Seeing something you need to do and doing it at that time that is useful, creating value that is of a permanent value. That's where I see Sam, someone who is really achieving things of permanent value, to both for humanity and for himself.
As the finance manager, having worked with Sam on financial matters, I can say he doesn't compromise when it comes to finances, and he lets all the, because we have standard operating procedures in the company and procedures for finance. He's very particular about those processes being followed to the latter. There's one really outstanding thing about Sam as well. I mean, he's the CEO, but he tells everyone never to call him the CEO or the boss, because he wants to make everyone feel as though it's okay to come and speak to him at any point. He wants to be on the same level as everyone, so there's this unity among everyone and there's this oneness.
Farmer Ogbole warns about miracles without input by its beneficiaries and affirms that even though grace is not necessarily attracted by human effort, indolence is not, on the other hand, a great magnet of the attention of the Almighty.
If we de-emphasize work, we will depend on grace and miracle. That does not mean I should not depend on grace, but grace is supposed to be expressed in my work. Grace is making my work easier, not a replacement for work. And when these are not well spread out, it becomes an issue. When we do not, because when we talk about work, there is also the part of what is laziness. I remember the former president talking about, oh, Nigerian youths are lazy, and everybody went, no, why would you say that? And I'm like, if we understand how God defined laziness, just maybe we would understand this man was right. Maybe you don't like the platform he said it on. Maybe he should have said it here to us in a local language so that the foreigners won't hear, but he was right. Somewhere in Proverbs, when you look at one of the definitions of laziness, it talks about the fact, he said the lazy man sits down on his, wakes up and says, I cannot go out. Why? And now I'm paraphrasing. He says, they said there is a lion on the streets. That is why he's not going out. So he gives an excuse. He did not see the lion. So he is given an excuse. And wherever you have excuses, you can't have results.
And life goes on for Farmer Samson Ogbole, who remains grateful for the place of his exposure to Christian doctrine early in his life. It would appear to have immensely affected his journey so far. Can you meet me at the office at 9 a.m. on Saturday? He told our producer, clearly grateful that someone has indeed nominated him as a model of integrity. The words of Principal Security Officer PSO2 Joshua Ayeonu, an employee of the University of Lagos, were simply touching. He is of the Igala ethnic stock in Nigeria's Kogi East. His humility has its roots in his childhood upbringing.
I was born into a Christian family. My father was a pastor. He is Elder Pastor Stephen Onu, who was late about 2 years ago, 2021. And he brought me up, and I and my siblings up very well in the ways of the Lord, and made us to have the fear of God to the extent that we eschew evil right from our youthful age. And by the grace of God, we grow thereby.
He drops a hint on the impact of early teachings in the life of a man or woman as he intones that his father had shown his children the ways of the Lord quite early in life. It became the way to go in turbulent adulthood.
Even though the world is full of evil now, yet because of the background and the value we were being brought up with by our parents. My mother's name is Salome Onu. That value actually speaks for us anywhere, anytime. And as a result of that, they have made us to understand that we are not supposed to take anything that does not belong to us. And anything that brings us and anybody together, we must ensure that we have the same equal right with the person. And as a result of that, we don't cheat.
The real essence of Mr. Onu's words is captured in his recall of a biblical precedent to the injunctions handed down to him and his siblings by his father. It's an interesting pathway to a cherished past.
As I told you, my father was a pastor. He taught us in the Sunday school with other siblings with other children while we were growing up about the life of the sons of, Rechab. We call them the Rechabites. Their parents brought them up and gave them an instruction on the need not to take wine, strong drink. Even though their parents have died decades back, they still upheld to the value, the instruction that the parents give to them, to the extent that God had to send a prophet, go to the house of Rechab or the Rechabites, and then tease them with alcohol or wine, and you will hear what they will tell you. And as a result, when the prophet got there, they told the prophet, "Sorry, sir, our parents have told us not to take strong drink, not to take wine. And that has been part of us, and we have been observing it right from our youth, and we cannot change it for now, for any reason." And as a result of that, he said that even my daddy then told us that even though your parents are not with you, that a time will come, you will grow up, you will go to a certain place where your parents are not. And the test of, integrity will come before you. To show forth that you have passed through this Sunday school, you have to tell them that, look, this is what our parents told us that we should not do. And as a result of that, we never did it.
Mr. Onu says there have been times people accused him and his siblings of various forms of wrongdoing. Given their pedigree and faith guidance, there had always been an insistent assertion of tutored integrity. He talks about his own case in particular.
There was a time, even in this place of work, I was being accused of certain things. I told them, my father was still alive then. I said, call my father and tell him, ask him that, your son, Joshua, did this and that, and hear what he will tell you. He will rightly tell you, he can't be my son. Because he knew the way he brought us up and that we cannot deviate. And that has been part of our life. And it has helped us thus far and brought us to where we are today, to the glory of God.
Surely, Mr. Onu's comments find anchor in that trait that separates men of honor from those who live life whichever way they like. We asked for his definition of integrity.
Integrity to me is a value in one that speaks of the person's, ability, sincerity, and, personality. That speaks about the person's personality. That's what I feel it is.
For the man or woman who decides on not compromising their noble principles, the road is usually rough. They are either scoffed at or outrightly condemned. Mr. Onu has an experience drawn from this scenario.
Some years back, about 1996, 97, thereabouts, some new staff that were employed were given to me to go and supervise exam at the Faculty of Art. And actually, when the menu was being shared and remuneration were being given, we were counted out as security. But the dean was not around then. I decided to, after a month, I asked the examination officer. I was the one that led the team to that place. Why are we not being given anything? He said, we were not co-opted into the arrangement. I said, why must it be? We are bona fide staff, we are not contract staff. He said, but that is just what they told him. I said, okay, fine, no problem. After a month or thereabouts, I saw the dean, because the dean traveled then. I saw the dean, Professor Erubetine by name. I told him, I said, sir, I and my team members came to your office came to your department to work, and nothing was given to us. He said, why? I said, they said that is the arrangement that was being made. He said, no, it can't be. That I should come and see him in his office. I went to his office. He said, how many of us? I told him how many we were. And he said I should sign for a certain amount of money, for which I did. And I had to go to the offices or the various bits of those my colleagues that worked with me to give them their share of money. For which I know, if it were to be other of my colleagues, that money goes into their pocket and it will never come out. Till today, I can still mention the name of those staff of ours that I did that thing to. I didn't do it for anybody to clap hand for me, but I knew that if I eat it alone, I have committed sin, and it is not part of my life.
It is not part of his life, a life formed up from injunctions he received as a toddler raised by Christian parents.
Number 2, in 1997, a professor's car, he was a doctor then, a lecturer at the Faculty of Arts, was stolen by a thief from the faculty, and I was working at the main gate. The highest denomination of currency, of Nigerian currency then, was used to wrap the disc, that was the gate pass, and given to me. I said, no, I insisted, please let me see our gate pass. He said, no, it's inside that money. I said, no, I'm not interested in the money. Let me see the gate pass. He said, then he said I should take. When I took the money, I took the gate pass with the money so wrapped with. I discovered that it was a fake disc that he gave to me. If I were to be a money monger, I would only pocket the money, having seen that the disc is fake, I would throw it away. But I didn't do that. I blocked him and I recovered the car for the professor. He's now a professor. He's still at work till today. The car was recovered. When he came down from his office in order to take his car, he found that the car was not there. He has to run down to the security post. Behold, the car was seen at the security post. I found that at that. Thank God that what has happened today to me is a kind of seed that is being sown for some time. God decided to use it to reward my efficiency, integrity, and sincerity, and loyalty to the job.
A third instance of insistence on integrity saw him apprehend a man who discharged only 11,000 liters of diesel from a tanker with the evil intent of taking 22,000 liters out. Mr. Onu got him apprehended as he turned down all attempts to be bribed into silence. How does Mr. Onu acquire reinforcements so that he doesn't ever lower the bar of honesty?
The Bible says that godliness with contentment is a great gain. If you have God in your mind and you are contented with whatever thing you have and whatever position you find yourself, whatever anybody says will not move you. So that inasmuch and integrity is a thing that someone determines by himself. It's not as if it is imposed on one. You determine it yourself that no, I don't want to live this life. This is the life I want to live. Therefore, if anybody tells you whatever that is not in line with your own style of life, you have to push it aside and then do what you want to do.
And what do some individuals who know this security officer think about his character?
Mr. Anu is a very, very truthful person. When we have some issues in some beat, we normally post him there to go and normalize it for us. And I've been doing it. They brought a 33,000 liter diesel to our service area in what our work and physical planning department. When they died discharging it, they said within some minutes, they said have discharged the fuel. Now no, I'll manage. Now no, I have to check. They said no, that's not coming. So guys, this is what happened now. They said they bought this of so later. I within a couple of minutes, they said I've discharged it.
Mr. Onu has one last word of caution.
The Bible says if you fear God, you ensue evil. That is to say, you depart from evil. So, wherever you are, it's not because your father is there or your mother is there, but because you fear God, you have to be able to give way from doing things that are evil. So also, I knew of many children who came. I knew when they came to year one, you look at them, this one is from a Christian background. Most especially those of us that are from maybe Pentecostal and they don't wear earring, they don't wear this. You will see them from the first year, second year. Before you know the third year, oh my God. When you see such girls, you begin to wonder, is it not this girl that I used to know? Why? It is as a result of peer pressure.
PSO 2 Onu remains a regular sight on the premises of the University of Lagos. If you're thinking of getting anyone compromised at their duty post, you won't succeed with this man. Honesty remains his best policy. It is a virtue he imbibed as a child. It is a standard he bears with pride, no matter the cost. was for phones to be left in silent mode. We jocularly said that anyone who violated this would pay a fine, and that luckily Magistrate Abubakar Saidu Umar Barkeji was there to give legal backing to the penalty. His worship would hardly allow the last words to land.
Don't forget that I'm the one to pay the fine because they are my extents and they are my students. I don't have the money.
Humor comes to Magistrate Barkeji naturally, but make no mistakes about it. This man is reaping the benefits of being raised in a situation where God was a serious factor of existence, and those who served him did so in all reverence. Stories about Magistrate Barkeji's integrity on the bench at Court 10 in the Abuja Judiciary Division actually rake up an impressive number. He was born in Agege, Lagos, but is actually a native of Barkeji in Tambuwal local government area of Sokoto State.
Actually, I started this in my Islamia in Lagos State at Agege local government. When we were child and minor as at then, our parents, especially my mother, she will ask us to go to Islamia. At times we run away, we will not go. At times we give a flimsy excuses that we are not feeling fine. So at the Islamia, it's a normal phenomenon in Islamia. Anybody that knows Islamia, they knows them with flogging, with koboko. They whip you if you are absent for one day, and the Islamic teacher in Islamia, definitely he will meet with your father in the mosque to know your whereabouts. So you don't have option, you must go. No matter what, you must go to that Islamia, and they will ask your father. If your father, due to one reason or the other, did not attend the mosque, your mother too will go to Islamia for the parents, for the female or women parents. They are, this morning, this afternoon, or this afternoon, we didn't see your child. What happened? But I sent him. So we don't have any option rather than to follow the rules of our parents and the guidance of our parents, and we must go to that Islamia.
Islamia, the Islamic foundational teaching, has become one of the most important institutions of the faith. A day with the Malam spans into weeks, months, and years, and all things being equal, a child of faith in God and decency in thinking and behavior emerges ultimately.
Based on the Islamic teaching, the admonition, the advices with our malams and our parents are doing their best, I think that's where I have that upbringing. I believe that's one of the major reasons that I got this integrity and this manhood from Islamia.
Magistrate Barkeji intones that the Muslim child is usually told what to do in terms of submitting to an Islamia upbringing. But at a point, what seems like coercion into faith, usually by parents, becomes the way to go. Magistrate Barkeji now sits in judgment over men and women who present their cases from the point of view of being right, while the other party is wrong. This is usually a situation that poses a challenge to the legal arbiter.
The challenges that I faced since when I was appointed as a magistrate, there are many and they are countless. But among others is that one thing I know as a fact, before my appointment, they gave me a Quran to swear with Holy Quran that I will do justice, irrespective of who you are, whether Christian, whether Muslim, whether Hausa, TV, Gbagi, or Fulani, or whoever you are. Justice must be done to all the parties. And by law, it is said that justice is not a one-way traffic. In fact, whenever you are dealing with human beings, in case, then what is justice? If you give judgment or you give judgment to Mr. A, to Mr. B, you are unjust. If you give justice to Mr. B, to Mr. A, you are unjust. So then what is the definition of justice? You are dealing with two human beings. Maybe, for instance, Mr. A has been born with a golden spoon. Mr. B has somebody at the top head. So how do you conclude? You just do what is before you, and the best form of evidence is documentary evidence to support the oral evidence, irrespective of who the person might be. There are a lot of challenges. Some I can say, some I cannot say because of the social media issue, but the challenges are there. In fact, even tomorrow I have another challenges. One of the challenges you see politicians, another problem we are facing, interferences. We can't do without that. So in my opinion as a senior magistrate, remember that justice is one of the attribute name of Almighty God. You remember that you have sung with Holy Bible and Quran to do justice. You remind yourself that whatever you are doing, there is another judge above you watching you. Just do what you think is right and leave what you think is wrong.
Even counsels to feuding parties, sometimes they're the arbiter. Magistrate Barkeji says this is a time for real restraint.
In fact, some of the lawyers, they will want to provoke you as a judge in order for you to commit them to contempt of court. And if you do that, you will see NBA president or NBA chairman start fooling. Why will you do this? Why will you do that as a lawyer? So there are a lot of challenges like that. Somebody like me, Abu Said Barkeji, I have never charged any lawyer for contempt of court. Because I know at the end of the day, some people above will come and solicit for his bail.
His worship is unarguably simple. What is the inspiration?
We have different individuals, different background, different character, different behavior. Because I'm a magistrate, that does not mean I have to show I'm a big man. I'm nobody. At the end of the day, I will go down to my grave. No matter how long you stay, one day you must go back to where you come from. If I may ask, if permitted, 100 years back, where were you? So 100 years to come, where will you be? So you have to be humble. 100 years back, where were you? That's the question. 100 years to come, where will you be? So you have to be humble. 100 years back, what did you bring to the earth? So 100 years to come, what are you taking? Where will you meet? Who will you meet? How will you feel? Who are you going to meet over there? Who knows? Our pastor, our imam, though we believe in them, they said this one, but nobody has ever been there to see and come back to tell us this is what is happening. So that's why I have to humble myself, because it's for my own benefit, it's for my own good, not for anyone else, for myself.
Way down the interaction though, Magistrate Saidu Umar Barkeji made an observation that doesn't quite bring a smile to the face concerning societal growth. It perhaps suggested why society is losing men and women of integrity.
In my opinion, I think since, how will I put it, it is like daily activity, day-to-day activity. Every time the good ones and the moralities and values and norms of Nigerian citizens has been going down woefully. Those who were born in 1960 will give you a different narration, and those who were born in 1970. Those in 1970 will give you a different dimension of those who were born in 1980s. Those in 80s will give you a different story from those who are born in 1990s. 1990s dimension is different from 2000. Now, even in fact, in school, where my daughters are going, that they don't beat. Why will you tell me you don't beat? When we were in school, we were like them. Our school is for learning and morality and character. Your neighbor, your community is also another big factors of problems in Nigeria. As at then, when we were young, our parents, when we go to school or we commit an offense, a neighbor can flog us and our parents will never say anything. In this 21st century, you can't do that. So in my opinion, the question you put to me, what can we do to tell the people in our society to be good? I believe that's the question. Fear of God. Admonition. And lastly, the world is coming to an end.
His worship remains grateful for how Islamia prepared him for life in the world and urges parents to be mindful of how they bring up their children. Incidentally, it was his birthday, and in between bites on the pie and a few drinks, we sought opinion on the Barkeji persona from those on attachment in his office. Other endorsers of the man's character speak up as well.
In as much as he knows so much and he's in such a high position, he doesn't act like it, as we've all seen. He's somebody who is humble enough to respect you, you know, in a way that doesn't demean you or put you down, but in a way that elevates you, makes you feel more confident about yourself, more secure. In fact, being here, I feel like has motivated me or made me want to practice the law more. Before coming here, you know, the law just seems, you don't see the good side, you don't see the benefits, you only hear about the bad, the corruption, how hard it is, how difficult, how tasking. But being here and witnessing someone like him who actually cares about his job, is diligent and does his job well, you can't help but grow your love and your passion for it. That's the kind of person that he is, and I'm sure so much more.
There was this incident that happened like 2-3 years back. That, in short, I as his wife knew he acted well. The way he reacted to the matter, he was given a choice, something that belonged to him. He was given a choice to pick. Okay, the thing belonged to like 5 people, and he was given a choice to make one person go out of it. Mind you, all the 5 people were, in short, entitled to that same thing, and he had the power and discretion to remove anyone. But what surprised me most was that Abu Said removed himself. He allowed the remaining 4 people go with it and remove himself. He didn't have a share or anything from that thing. And when I asked him why, he said removing anybody else would bring about people thinking, okay, so because he's a magistrate and whatnot, so he decided to remove himself because he was in this power, and he believes God will bless him with something more than that thing, which he has actually done.
In the about 8 years of service, I've never heard anybody lay any allegation of incompetence or corruption against his worship, Abu Said. This goes to show that in the past 8 years, he must have been doing everything within the ambit of the law, and never has he shown any character or characteristic of someone who is ready to cut corners or bend backwards to favor someone. He's a humble human being, a humble person, and he lives within his means. A person who lives within his means is naturally not interested in unnecessary extra income that is not within what he's supposed to earn.
Professor Martins Fabumi is from Edo State in Nigeria's South-South region. But listening to him suggests a strong Southwest theme about his utterances. That's because he grew up in Ekiti, in the Southwest, where Anglican traditions accompanied him practically from the womb.
I was born in a Christian home, and my father was a teacher. My mother was a tailor, the one we call fashion designing now. The two of them were very strict parents. They were disciplinarians. And in the school that I attended, it was a mission school. The teachers in those days, most of them were clergymen, catechists in the church. They would be teachers in the school, and they would be catechists in the different Anglican churches.
What this suggests is that young Martins was effectively located where godly instructions from mom and dad at home just got reinforced by teachers who doubled as catechists. There was no way this would not rub off on Martins.
Right from childhood, I belonged to the Anglican Church. In fact, the Anglican Church in the community where I grew up in Ekiti State, I was founded by the younger brother to my grandfather. He had lived in Lagos. He migrated to join the elder brother. Then he brought the faith to that town in Ekiti State.
Martins would seem to have been effectively hemmed in by the imperative of good morals. What the catechist preached in terms of good behavior was further prescribed by tradition. He talks about a code that guided even taking a gift on behalf of a neighbor who missed a meeting.
If you are absent from a meeting, if I take anything on your behalf, I have to tell you and get permission before I can eat that thing if it is something edible. And if it is something else, maybe money, before I can convert it to my own, I will need your permission. And if I fail to do that, and I eat the food or spend the money without your permission, the repercussion is death.
Martins moved from primary school to secondary school, where he came under a principal for whom discipline was a first creed. His life, which was already being shaped up by religion and tradition, had more lessons to take.
Our principal was very strict. He would read our letters in public assembly. And so nobody will want to go wayward in our school days. We were always very careful. And I discovered that the background has built me up. One, it enables me to know that I don't need to buy my way before I can climb up, that I have to do extra work. Like my principal in those days would tell us, hard work does not kill. It is laziness that kills.
What, to Professor Fabumi, is integrity?
Integrity means decency in all ramifications. It involves doing the right thing even when nobody is watching you.
How has he dealt with moments that have stretched his resolve to stay on the side of upright behavior?
Temptations will come, but you have to reconsider your stand. I remember a time, in fact it happened twice. Money that was not mine was paid into my account. I had to go to the bank with a letter addressed to the manager, and I made the secretary to sign the duplicate of that letter, stating original received by mine. The secretary signed and stamped with the official stamp of the bank. Then I had to write the bursar of the university in which I was working that time. That I discovered that a particular amount of money was paid into my account. I attached the letter. When there was no response from the bursar, I had to write the Vice Chancellor, and with the attachment, the Vice Chancellor had to respond that he will contact the bursar. And actually, towards evening that same day, the bursar gave me the remitter account through which I refunded the money. For refunding that money that was wrongly paid into my account, I spent 25,000 naira.
It is not just that Professor Fabumi remembered and executed what faith teachings counseled him to do from an early life. A fee had to be paid to do that which was right. Such were the times of this model of integrity.
The second time, this one happened outside Nigeria. It happened in Ghana. I didn't know that the money was mine. I went to the bank. I complained. They could not tell me the actual source. They gave me the code name of the payer. I said, no, this one will not help me. Then later it occurred to me that this second money was not wrongly paid. It was actually the pension deductions that they made from my salaries in the year 2014 when I first worked in Ghana. So then I called the office and they told me, no, the money is yours. That was not a mistake. Then I was happy. But the first one was actually not my money.
This spectacular show of integrity would sound like a fairy tale to many young people in the present day. But then Professor Fabumi grew up at a time when it was truly good to be good. He practically draws up a code of conduct for people who are keen on the practice of the virtue of integrity.
Somebody with integrity will be a very honest person. The person will be transparent. The person will be hardworking. Then the person will be having very high moral values. And the person will be somebody that is able to be a role model to others. The person should be able to mentor other ones to grow in that line of integrity. I remember that when I was young, whenever something went wrong, because I was brought up in a large family house, my father being the first educated man in the whole extended family, all his younger ones were living with him with their families, and it was a big family house. And whenever something went wrong, my father would want to know the truth. My father would just ask them. My first name is Tunde. My father would ask them, was Tunde there when this thing happened? If they said yes, my father would say, okay, all of you go. When Tunde comes back, I will invite you back. Then some of them will try to lobby me, particularly those that were wrong. I will tell them that. For me, I'm going to see the truth. Then my father will invite all of us. Then he will ask me, and I'll still see the truth.
It all boils down to a life of integrity, needing some level of stubbornness to retain its insistence. Some persons who know Professor Fabumi appreciate the man's way of life.
Whatever he will not do, he will not tell you. Immediately it is pronounced, he will surely do it. Even at home, whenever he says something to the children that he will do this, the children will be excited, knowing fully well that he will surely do it. Unlike me, if I tell them that, I will buy you this, I will buy you that. Maybe after some time and I discover that I cannot afford it, I will simply tell them that, look, so promise I may not be able to fulfill because of so reason. At times the children will be joking, they will say, a promise is a debt and a debt is a sin. That since I promised, it must be fulfilled. But their father, come rain, come sunshine, he will go out of his way to fulfill it.
There are many temptations one has to fight off on the integrity trail. Let's hear one more challenge from Professor Fabumi.
Some of my colleagues wanted me to favor some of the students in my gradings, and they were very senior ones. They would give me their matric numbers, but because I was a very junior lecturer in those days, I would collect, but I would not do anything. So some of those students will end up scoring their low marks, and the senior ones will never come back to me to ask me. And over the years, people got to know that Martins will not budge.
Martins will not budge. At this point, the world usually leaves the individual alone to continue on their chosen path of integrity. Professor Martins Fabumi has earned a place in the Hall of Fame for men and women who do good for the sake of it. Reward is never the motivator. It's all about teaching a child the way he should go. Once used to it, adulthood secures an eternal compass. That's what the professor has benefited from. Anyone who considers that being a man or woman of noble character can only come from elite society should listen to the story of Abuja-based vulcanizer Abubakar Baba. This skillful artisan is respected for his competent self-application to his trade. But as Abubakar gives tires and tubes the opportunity to ply the road again, those who know him are aware that his honesty is not in any way secondary to his vulcanizer skills. Abubakar is honest to a fault, and quite matter of fact anytime anyone asks him to address this virtue of his. How did an orphan pick up a persistent theme of "it is good to be good"?
The person, when the people where get papa, them children with them, they do what you know good. They do what you know with them, they call them, say, see. This thing where I do is no good. Them they want them at the year am. At the year am, I say them they want them say this thing where I do them they beat them. I say okay this thing where this guy do where I no good me I no go put my hand they do am again. From there I'll come out from my daddy village go enter my mom village. I will go Islamia school where them they do YZ when they call us tell us say see this thing is good. This thing if you do this thing is bad. If we do this thing if we do wrong, then them they put you where you not supposed to go for tomorrow where the time reach if you died. So them teach us for Islamia school. Now from there now come Sabiam.
So Abubakar garnered advice from listening to parents around him as they advised their own children. That and the early introduction to Islamia teachings provided the toolkit for his life of honor. Abubakar says his father's brother was responsible for getting him into Islamia, Islam's famed institution for inculcating moral injunctions in children in line with the teachings of the faith. He delves into the real ingredients of what keeps him upright in his dealings with clients.
If I see yellow, make you say yellow it be. If I see red, make you say red it be. Make you not turn my hand say because of money, make you do eye kokoro. Shop person money is bad to me. Oh. My people warn me. Cause my people warn me, I dey follow them, they follow us, them they tell me, I say, waiting my people tell me that time, I go remember. I go remember. I don't go do sure. If I work, if I see your tire, you give me the tire, I'll work for you. If na one nail, I'll tell you na one nail. But if na gari, if na by the side, okay, this your tire, nothing do am be good. Na gari, I'll put gari, them carry am go. Or some customer feel bring tire come, them say this tire very bad, you no work again. I'll look at the tire and immediately I see the tire, okay, no go waste your time. This tire you good, unless you want change it for your mind. If money no dey, this one it can serve you. Oga say the customer say, are you sure? I say yes. I'll sure make you remove them. I'll remove them. I'll do them very well. I'll put. I say them this time them don't do them before myself, but I'll give you guarantee for this my own. I mean do them. Now God touch them for me, and it go good for you. And true if I do, it go good for them. Now God will give me mine.
There must have been instances when dishonesty suggested itself to Abubakar. How did he fight off such temptation?
The time where I did small, now I see where I did together, my mates, them they carry person something myself, and I can see them where them they come charge them, the body, them they see them they beat them, and they see them. To me, I even they think that cutting is no good. If for me to sleep person something, if I see the person, if they pass like this, my man tell me say you don't discover. I dey fear, and I dey fear God. I dey fear God, but because them tell us say for Quran, say if you do wetin no, if time will reach, if you die, you go them put for fire. Then them they teach us for Islamia school. So that thing is there for my mind. To me to do bad thing, I want make you get this word and make you get heaven. So that as them they warn me from my village, I dey follow them. Then me come, I dey fear God. God mind, I put for my mind. I promise God, myself, I no ever support God for this my work. If I disappoint my food, anybody will know if I support you, do you wetin no good, them come see my work what they do. Them say this man na lie person, them go run for me, I no go see food. And from there they chop, train my family, born build house, do everything for my family. So if I know that, I don't want to spoil my work.
He recalls instances when he had to revert to customers who left items in his workshop in error. They were sure to get such items back, of course.
Yes, it happen like that. My customer, they come here and work tire. Where them they call work, them they carry, spend everything, them they lift jack, them they go. What? 15 days, 2 weeks, I don't go see them myself. I feel stand for road, they look the motor one by one because I don't get 2 gates now, 1 gate I'll get. Now here them they enter, now here them they pass. So I go start. If I see the motor, sometimes I even they do mistake, can't stop another motor, I see the person face. I say no be you. One of my customers forget spanner for here. You go, no be you are the fine, no best, I'll greet them and go. I'll stand you. If I see the person, I'll stop. I say, see your spanner, so date where come work. You forget, I'll return her for them. And the man come out, he thank you for me, and he tell him friends again. He say, go meet this man. Now this man they do work well, and he talk through, and he no go do what you. Now you go that true work well they do. They bring customer more for me again.
And who would not recommend others to a vulcanizer that shuns the maladies of an ailing society so as to stand tall among those who believe in honesty? But it all adds up. After all, virtue rewards itself, they say. Those who endorse Abubakar's character do so without batting an eyelid. They are certain about the sterling qualities of the vulcanizer.
He's a straightforward person, and anything he told you, that is how it is. That is how it is. It's not somebody that do, that lie or tell, one kind story or the other in order for you to believe him. At least since I know him, He has been so faithful and straightforward. He always tell the truth. I'm a living testimony.
What he does is to make sure people's cars are okay. Once they come, he checks it and tells you the right thing. He's not after your money, but he's after the safety of your car. He checks your car and tells you this is bad. I've seen so many nails. This is what I see in your car, and he will pull it out and show you. And if you are ready to accept whatever he tells you, fine. If you are not, he leaves you. But he's a very straightforward person.
You will not be doing your work and then somebody comes and then interrupts and he now leaves your work and then goes to that person. It's not like that. It's organized. He tell you to wait, take your turn. In fact, it's that trait about him touched me when he was actually working on my tire. One day, I had a bad tire. My tire needed fixing. He was working on my tire and somebody came in a rush, in a hurry. Now called him. Mr. Abubakar, I obliged him. He left me. He asked me to excuse him. I said, okay, go ahead. He went over to the man, spoke to the man, and then he said no. I just saw him shaking his head. I said he should just wait. Let him finish with me first. So he came back to me and was telling me that it looks like the man did not agree to allow him finish with me. He was so much in a hurry. He left. He told me that look at this man, he just came and met him. And he told him, that's Mr. Abubakar told him that he's working for me. If he can just wait, he will soon finish. He wants him to leave my own work and then go and then do his tire. He said no. He does turn by turn. No matter the amount of money he is willing to give, he's not going to leave my work and do his work. It's turn by turn. Everybody must take his turn. And he said it's not all about money. And he's very God-fearing. Because I also see that when the time for Salah comes, he's very, very engaged.
In a world of rising cynicism towards what is right, Abubakar just sticks to the virtuous life he knows. What is his reaction to unfair treatment from other individuals?
If I see plenty people like that, if I see that person where even talk to myself, if I dey pass, my body they do me somehow, and I live on, as I know say I know to do like that, I live on him and God. But my mind, anytime when I see the man, I dey feel I say, God, this man, when he talk against me, I know they forgive him. So sometimes I front think I say, na mistake he dey do. Na mistake he no know. God will know everything. I'll judge. I'll live am for God. But if I dey say my mind, I always remember. Because that thing no concern me. I always remember. But na mistake he dey do, sha. And God will forgive those people like that.
Abubakar has a response to how he would react to two persons in conflict over a matter that revolves around integrity.
If I see two people where they gather, where they quarrel, I fit meet them, say wetin happen, when they come explain wetin dey ground, say see, I go tell them, so you do like this, you follow this way, you no good. So do like this, you follow this way, na you good. Anybody wey get am say, kai, you no do well o. Because of next tomorrow, no be today don pass o, greet am because na you do bad, but next tomorrow, see wetin you go do, next time see wetin you go do, see wetin you go follow. Na so I go take people's feel learn from my heart.
The vulcanizer is happy that his son is taking after him each time the boy stands in for him at the workshop. The chip of the old block is doing well, representing his dad. Abubakar is surely happy that his son is following in his footsteps. to this.
I must say, as honored as I am to be nominated or interviewed, I have to confess that the very first thing I did was to go and search the internet for what it means to be a person of integrity. I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase imposter syndrome. It's the situation where you feel you're not worthy of whatever it is you're being presented.
When in March 2022 he was appointed Acting Director General of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NACIMA, Okpayemi Alaron was not just being recognized for his professional competence, they were appointing a good man to a well-deserved post. Up there, he said, he had to look up to the meaning of integrity to be able to respond to our choice of him as a model. That's the man, humble and practically childlike. Incidentally, he's just displaying traits of a child who got early exposure to the ways of God.
My early childhood was a very religious one. I was raised in, I would say, a partially Catholic household. I attended church with my mom. My dad, though Christian, wasn't Catholic. And I don't know if you are aware of the Catholic faith, catechism is a very strong foundation in that. So I remember early on the formation of this moral code in terms of Sunday school, Bible readings, Bible stories, not just in church, but also in school. I remember in school having Fridays dedicated to, I think it was called moral aptitude or something like that, where you know, as kids, you just keep getting told stories that made that clear line between what is good and what is evil. So to answer your question as succinctly as I can, I would say yes, the childhood did provide a very strong foundation for how I live my life today. Church also played a very strong role, but not just church, family, because when you do leave church, you come back home and as children you're watching your parents, you're watching your uncles, you're watching your aunties. When you get to school, you're watching your teachers, you're soaking up all that knowledge and instruction. I would say that's where it comes from, really.
So, who really took young Okpayemi into God's vineyard at that early stage of life?
In the direction of religion, church, the discipline that came from religion, then my mom. But there were a lot of other role models, you know, that, like I said, either positively, I had negative role models in the sense that you look at somebody and say, I don't want to be like this uncle, you know, or I don't want to be like that auntie. So, yes.
Interesting. Even those who displayed negative traits were for Okpayemi a deterrent from the wrong route in life. Not everyone gets blessed with early wisdom, the kind young Okpayemi acquired.
What you need to know about the organization is that you stand at a crossroads of being able to channel resources to, you know, certain businesses in terms of access to information, in terms of, you know, access to opportunities. So the challenge that you see when it has to do with keeping your integrity intact is the normalization of unethical things, or should I say the weaponization of things that may otherwise seem harmless. Say gift giving, for example. So I come to your office and I'm really not coming to ask for anything, but as I leave, I would like to give you a gift. You know, it's a very gray area. It looks like, you know, it's harmless. It's I'm just being given a gift, but it's dangerous and it becomes a challenge because by the time you've received gift 2 times, 3 times, 4 times over,
one way or the other, it influences your decision making at the point in time where decisions need to be made, no matter how objective, you may want to be.
The second challenge for him, then, was how to handle the so-called quota system, which required a spread of positions across Nigeria's ethnic realities. He found it somewhat discomforting for a job or post to go to another individual due to the legal requirement of spread when a more qualified man from another ethnic group is around. In adult life and as the top helmsman in Nasima, Mr. Alaron had a personal solution to bias in making decisions that affected others.
I guess each person of integrity has a way to surmount these challenges, but how it has been for me is the one singular emotion of empathy is what usually helps me, as in not really focusing on personal benefit first, but looking at, putting myself in the shoes of whoever is, in need at that point in time. So as acting director general of Nasima, it would be my role to try and help businesses. So when you go approach the job from a position of empathy, you're not considering decisions in terms of who it benefits, but how many people, that decision will benefit, how many problems will be solved. So that has helped in trying to maintain that sense of moral uprightness and that moral code.
Talking about a moral code, it does tally with Mr. Alaron's definition of integrity. He goes back to the search for the meaning of integrity, which he said he embarked upon following his nomination for this project.
Interestingly, everything I could find to define integrity was some other word that had its own meaning. For example, somebody with integrity is someone who's supposed to be honest. So why not just say an honest man? Or somebody that is supposed to be humble. So just go ahead and say a humble person. But I got to the point in my search where it just said, look, a person of integrity is someone with high moral standards who tries to live his or her life according to an ethical code that has, a high quality of morals imbibed.
What is his solution to criticism for being a man of integrity?
Own it, whatever name you're called, because it is in when you waver that you fail. But when you own whatever name you're called and get known, have the reputation of being consistent, eventually those names will lose the tendency of being an insult and will actually be an endearing term. Start calling you pastor, but it's no longer in an insultive tone. It's just an endearing term as nickname of what you're being called.
It was a meeting at the Lagos Chambers of Commerce with Opeyemi that really convinced me within a couple of hours of the meeting that he was a man that I could rely on, go the extra mile for me. From an integrity point of view, there's no question. I can only say for my own purposes as well that I'm a one-man business. If I was, I survive on my integrity, my honesty, and the delivery of what I say. And Yemi is really, I think, a good example of what I hold dear in terms of my being a successful independent consultant.
Since I have known him, I have never met a man that is so straightforward with his way of life. He has a plan for himself, even at that age. Like I said, he was 15 when I met him, 14, 15 when I met him. And up to today, he's as, when you say somebody is as straight as arrow, he's that kind of person. He tells you yes, it's yes. He doesn't mind doing everything to ensure that yes will be yes. If there's anything called accountability, he's ready to do it. He's always ready to put his life on the line to ensure that his word is maintain his words. Now they want to renew him as this thing, and he refused. I said, what? He said, well, when things started getting to the point at which some old folks wants to start playing their game because he doesn't want to play the game. Are you getting it? The game of money, the game of contracts, the game, and he doesn't want to soil his hand to resign. I said, who does that? He said, I will do it. And in fact, I have done it. I said, why? He said, no. Anything that will improve his integrity is not ready to go into. And for that reason, he resigned that juicy position.
During our time, he's exhibited extreme uprightness. He was very professional in all his activities, in his conduct, in everything he does. There was a point where we were opportune to apply for certain grants, and because of he felt there was a conflict of interest, he refused to go for the application. He refused to apply for it, which just it just shows the nature, his kind of nature.
I can confirm to you that Mr. Opeyemi Alaron is a man of integrity. I trust him, and he's what exactly he has said. He personifies integrity. He personifies a personality who thinks out of the box and who go the extra miles to do his duty and work. Well, due diligence. Opeyemi Alaron worked with me in Nasima while I was serving as Director General of Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture. He was the Director of Research, IT and Policy Development. Intellectually, I find him very, very useful, capable. And as a person of integrity, in terms of accountability too as well, it was indeed an epitome. I will say that I run Nasima closely with Opeyemi Alaron. I'm always ready and able. Each time I travel, with absolute confidence, I hand over Nasima to him.
And the man, Opeyemi Alaron, continues a life of self-respect, laced with a strong theme of remaining fair to the other man. Kogi State-born Omehi Salihu Yahaya had a career that spanned through teaching and education management. This teacher ensured that children were brought up in self-respect while exuding a strong leaning towards a life of achievement. His tenure in education management involved many assignments that brought out the man of integrity in him. He recalls one such instance.
In the course of my career, through ANCOPS, I was sent as a member of the Exam Ethics Marshals International, a body that is an NGO that seeks to fight exam malpractice and other forms of malpractice in the education sector. And since then, I'm actually still there. I rose to the point from being a member. I'm now what we call a master marshal. I'm actually up to now working with them as a consultant. So there we deal with issues of integrity in exams, issues with integrity in education, and generally even society and so on. So we have a lot of membership, and we train people on how to manage their life and how to allow systems to run smoothly and properly.
Since retiring, Malam Yahaya has rendered a lot of advisory work to private schools and NGOs. His is a life that has so far revered God's unique place in the lives of those who trust in Him. But how did it all begin? Who, more than anyone else, sowed the seed of the Islamic faith in the early life of Omehi?
My grandfather was the late Ohimegia Igu of Kutonkarfe. My mom, late Hajia Amina Tuje, who was his wife, lived in the compound with him. And you know how these royal families are. I was actually living with my grandmother in my grandfather's palace at that time. And my grandmother was quite Islamic, she was quite learned. It was she that actually began to introduce us to the rudiments of Islamic worship. And I remember, if I can remember clearly, when I was about 7, 8, I had to move back to my father's house, and there he took it on. And he actually connected me to a Malam who started teaching me some basics of the Quran before I now went to primary school and did much of the training. So the person I can recall really nudged me on in the Islamic way was my grandmom, who I lived with at a very early age.
Malam Omehi brings exactitude into the religious content he received as a child.
Basically, the upbringing was there and the religious component was there. I mean, and the early religious teaching we got was when they taught you a chapter, you were told the meaning of that chapter, you were told the context in which that chapter, and somehow you were told how your life revolves around that, or that chapter revolves around your life. So, I mean, basically, you didn't have any chance to misbehave in the house of the paramount ruler of that land there, who is a strict Islamic teacher and who is there. And when the matter becomes, when they are handling matters, you are there to see. And the justice was there, the fairness was there, and I think that also began to inspire in us the need to do the right things and to follow order and to follow instructions, and it guided us up to where we are now.
So, Malam Omehi admits that he was tutored into correct behavior. That has helped him become the man of integrity he is today. And what does this mean to him?
For me, integrity means, one, doing the right things and avoiding the wrong things. And doing here, not just doing and encouraging the right things and avoiding and discouraging the wrong things. And again, also integrity means that whatever you do or you say must be for the general good, in spite of the circumstance. You subsume your passing and allow what is good for everybody to take reason over what you do. Integrity also means respecting the views, the emotions, the interests of other people that you relate or interact with, including even the management of those people's time. I mentioned the issue about time earlier on. When you have an appointment with somebody and you say it is 10 o'clock and you go there at 11 o'clock, there's a question mark on your integrity. But if you go there at 5 minutes to 30 minutes to the time, or you meet time, for me, it defines you there. Secondly, you must also, integrity means that when you act in a manner, we're all human beings from time to time, that is off what is supposed to be, you should be able to own up. Yes, I did this thing, and you also be ready to apologize for what you do and let things move forward. You cannot be wrong and begin to insist that you are right and expect that people do that. And another aspect of integrity that I want to relate with very well is that whatever you say is something that anybody hearing you should take to the banks.
Yes, anyone listening to that man or woman of integrity should not be in doubt in terms of the veracity of what has been pledged or uttered. He brings further explanation into how integrity actually goes before the man or woman who demonstrates it.
And it also means that when people are coming to you, they should have an idea of what they are going to expect based on what they come to you with. If you are somebody whose yes is yes, they should know this man is going to say no to this. No, and when you come, you provide it. So integrity really is the totality of your self-discipline in terms of how you manage yourself and how especially you manage others. And one aspect of integrity that I think is critical for me that I want people to know is that you should learn to live what does not concern you. To integrity is don't interfere with what you are not invited into. Even if you are invited into, go there and do what you think is right and forget about the consequences of that to you.
Malam Omehi has found his life of integrity tested by many situations, which he proudly says he fought off without second thoughts. His mind goes back to recall a couple of them.
Let me mention an instance. I was supposed to appoint people as principals or vice principals. I had the right to recommend who should come in there. And of course, there are people that I work with, there are people that I know. And the temptation was there to pick somebody who you like just to give, but no. What I did was set up the criteria, set up the issues, and if you didn't fit in, you didn't fit in. I have an uncle who I helped to get the job here. And he was a vice principal, and I never met him principal before he retired. I could have simply pushed his name there, but I know it was not the right thing to do. And thank God he understood. He didn't know, but the best I could do for him was transfer him to a place nearer his residence. And another instance I will also say is while I was serving, I had a colleague who was trying to drag me into something that wasn't right. It was very tempting, but at a point I said, no, sorry. Our friendship, we have to decide whether our friendship will continue on this part or will not continue. We can't do that. And I succeeded in pulling myself out of it.
Some persons whose path and that of Malam Omehi have crossed readily speak about a man who rises above self to attract admiration, not by deliberate intent though, from those he interacts with.
Malam Salihu Omehi, Yahya, I've known him too as my neighbor in Kuje, where he was working, and I was also, we were all residing. He was the chairman of the mosque committee, and during his own tenure, he performed excellently. He's a man you can always trust. And I think when he was the director, either acting director or director at the school services, and also at the quality assurance department of the FCT, I think he performed excellently. So in a nutshell, he's a man who has held positions, a man who has exhibited a lot of integrity. When we were all in school, he was somebody who was entrusted with responsibilities, and he has performed adequately.
We couldn't leave Malam Omehi without a question about what has gone wrong with the young generation. He had something akin to a whiplash for some parents.
What I normally tell people when they start condemning this generation is that I believe that this generation are actually victims of our parental, let me use the word, permit me if I'm allowed, parental recklessness. Because they grew up in a situation where we parents are not giving them the kind of upbringing that our parents gave us. We feel we want to give them better life, but are giving them the wrong life. Yes, love is good. I enjoyed love. I mean, if it is parental attention, I got it. But that didn't stop my parents from telling me I'm wrong or I am right. It didn't stop it. And it didn't affect me. I didn't get emotional when they tell me you are wrong or otherwise. So, but these days, we parents, in trying to impress our children, we are allowed them to go away with the wrong things, and yet we expect them to behave in the right ways. It can't work.
During his teaching and education management days, Malam Omehi was practically accosted by some subordinates who felt he was not using his position to get rich. He always waved them away. He had been trained by faith to hang on to probity. He was not going to disappoint those who had raised him in the ways of God. It's an attitude of faith which his retirement has not played down in any way.